Welcome back to Maximum Production, a Holstein Friesian New Zealand podcast about everything to do with cows. I'm Amelia, and today I'm talking about trying to help our farmers out there make the right choices when choosing their bulls for the coming season. Hope that makes a bit of sense. So joining me today is Holstein Friesian New Zealand President Graham Stewart of the Crestlands herd in Rangiora. So welcome, Graham.
Thanks, Amelia. Good to be here.
Graham's the first person that I've made do homework before an episode. So he's a little bit nervous about making sure that he's done his homework right. I asked Graham to prepare leading into today's episode to pick 3 bulls that he will be using over his herd for the coming season. But before we get to that, we'll start as we always do. And Graham, do you want to tell us and our listeners a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today?
Well, thanks, Amelia. Yeah, well, I guess I was born into pedigree Holstein cows. My father was an avid Holstein breeder, and when I was born, Dad was very keen, so I just grew up around Dad and cows, showed cows all my life, got the passion, got the bug, and he just loved everything about Holstein cows. So I just learned everything off him and other people that I knew in the industry at the time, and that's how I really got into it and loved being a part of it. It's such a great family. It's like one big massive family of people that are interested in the same thing and can get you anywhere around the world, and to like-minded people, you can have a lot of fun. So it's a great thing.
And you're a legacy on our board of directors, aren't you? Your father, Gordon, was a previous member of our board back in the day.
Yep, Dad's been on the board. TOP, he was president, and he's done all those things.
So Graham is also a classifier for the Holstein Friesians as well. So he's definitely following in his father's footsteps, which is nice to see, and a bit of a play on our last month's episode that we did, which was talking about generational farming, which is quite a cool little link. So how many cows are you guys milking out in Rangiora?
At the moment, we've got up to about 500 through the peak of our season, and then we get down to about 300 through the winter. So we milk all year round. Seems to be enough at the moment for the size of shed that we've got.
How many have you got left to calve for autumn?
Oh, probably about 20 left to go, I think. So, we're getting through them.
Everyone has said that to me in the last couple of weeks. I have 20 to go.
All right.
It must just be a common thing. Everyone's at that point where they've only got like 20 left. So I guess that means that you are starting to make decisions leading into your mating for your autumn calving cows. Should be happening over the next couple of months.
We start about end of May, yep.
Yeah. So I guess this is the perfect time to start talking about what bulls you should be using. Before we get into your bull picks of the year, we always talk about breeding objectives. You've got your national breeding objective, and then you've got your breeding objectives for your farm. Do you want to just explain to our listeners just a little bit about what breeding objectives are?
Well, breeding objectives, everyone, I guess, is different because there's so many different farming systems throughout New Zealand. And so what fits one person does not always fit the others. So I guess it's just the emphasis that you put on the type of cow that you want to milk. If you're in Northland or if you're in Canterbury, things will be a little different. So us here in Canterbury, we want a cow, well, I feel we want a cow a little bit bigger, a cow that we can fully feed to get that maximum utilisation out of her.
Plus, you have the luxury of irrigation, which not a lot of farmers in the North Island have.
That's right. We do have the luxury of generally being able to fully feed our cows year round. So we can handle that cow that's a little bigger as long as we fully feed her. She'll be able to convert that into production and be very efficient. So
I guess that translates again to, like, if you're over on the West Coast, they get really wet. So a big cow's not overly practical over there. And then they also say cows that don't like getting wet feet. So Jerseys don't necessarily, and people can tell me I'm wrong, it's perfectly fine. Jerseys don't necessarily like getting wet feet, so they don't tend to do that well over on the West Coast. So there tends to be more Friesian or crossbred herds, or actually there's a few Ayrshire herds over there. Ayrshires like wet feet. They love swamps. They built for the highlands of Scotland, so they love it. They do really well in those kind of conditions. Yeah, what you said is right. Like for me, if I had a herd in the Waikato, I think my breeding objectives might be quite different to you, Graham.
Yeah, and that's right. We've all got to breed an animal that suits our conditions, don't we, really, to maximise their genetics and get the best out of them.
And would you say that it's a trial and error to get what suits you?
Yeah, I guess so, because if you're new to the area, unless you can ask people that are around and see what they've done before and, learn a little off them. But I guess, everybody's different in what they want to do. So you would have to try a little bit in different types of animals just to see what suited the farm that you were on.
And I guess it's that thing where not every bull suits every farm, and that you might have similar breeding objectives to, well, Alice Robinson, who's right across the river from you, yet you could both use the same bull, but it could work better in his system than it could in your system or his cows due to the strength that those cows have already or what they lack. So I guess that comes into what your specific traits are that you're looking for when you're picking your bulls as well. Would you agree?
Yeah, generally, I think you'd be right there. I guess it depends on the base care of your herd, really, isn't it? And I think a lot of the bulls that I would use that would suit Alistair too. But I guess with our farm, our cows do come from a different base generally. So, there's the odd bull that doesn't always mix the same as they do in each other's herd.
Do you think it's important for people to know what they want? I know there's a lot of new farmers that are coming into the industry and taking on that 50-50 share milking job. So they're picking bulls for the first time and things like that. Do you think it's important before you make those decisions to know what you want out of your herd?
Oh, for sure, because yeah, you're not going to get there if you're not really sure what you're doing. I think you've got to have a goal in mind, the sort of cow that you want that you think will suit your farming system and that you're happy with, and just breed that way consistently. It doesn't happen overnight. Breeding's not a short term thing. It can take some generations to change the shape of your animal and your herd. So you do have to give it some time, but I think if you've got a animal in mind, the sort of animal that you want, yeah, I think that really helps to breed the sort of herd that you're really looking for. Yep.
I like how you said if you have an animal in mind, because I think the best way for you to make decisions for your herd is to have a vision in your head of what your perfect cow looks like.
Yep.
There's the perfect cow model. We've got a few of them that float around our office. So I think it's your vision of what that cow looks like. Do you want her to be wide in the rump? Do you want her to be lower in the pins? Do you want her to be a little bit more straighter in the legs? How wide do you see that muzzle being? Every single person, if you just looked at the width of the rump, I think everyone would put their fingers at a different width, if that makes sense. Like if I'm wanting a 9 on a cow, a 9 to me is here. You might have something that's completely different to what my vision is.
Yeah, for sure. But, I think we still all want to strive for that ultimate true type model sort of cow, because I think that's been shown in the past. The cow with the less faults will last longer in the herd, so hopefully produce a lot more throughout her lifetime and be more efficient.
Now that we've figured out what breeding objectives are, what are the breeding objectives that you are aiming for currently in your herd?
Well, perfect cow. No.
Well, yeah, we know you want the perfect cow, but what does your perfect cow look like?
Well, I guess a cow that's structurally sound, got good strength and depth about her, good open rib, good width through the front end and chest region, and, with a real good udder and good legs and feet. That produces well. I think you've got to have that combination between type and production. We're all commercial breeders now.
There's no more town supply. You're all paid on solids.
Yeah.
So you're looking for your perfect cow. How many years have you been breeding your herd, Graham?
Me personally,
Yeah. How
30,
long's a piece of string?
30. Yeah.
About 30 years?
Yeah, 30 years, so.
So do you think you have got to the point where you've got your perfect cow coming through now?
Oh, no, we've got lots of nice cows, but I mean, you always move the goalpost, don't you? You always want more production, so you're always striving for that animal. And I guess as more and more new traits come on, we want all these new traits. We want productive life, we want better somatic cell counts, we want all those management traits to be strong, because the stronger our herd are, and once again, the more productive they are, and hopefully make more money for us. So always something else to strive for.
So what are the current traits that you're kind of aiming for when you're picking your bulls? I guess the main few things that you look at.
I like a balance of stature and strength. I guess one of the first things I look at, I want a bull that's not overly tall. I'm not looking for tall bulls anymore. Just want a good size cow. But on the graphs, I'm looking for a bull that sometimes has more strength and stature or fairly close to it, so that you get that robust cow. I guess one of my main things over the last 5 years has been teat placement and teat length.
No one likes close rear teats.
I've used a lot of bulls over the years that have just shortened those teats and made them close, like a lot of people breeding throughout the world. So that's certainly one of the biggest things I look for as well when I'm looking for a bull to use over my herd.
Do you think that people can sometimes go wrong when they're picking their traits by picking too many to focus on?
Yeah, I guess I'm one that does that myself. But yeah, I think you do learn as you get into breeding for quite a long time that, yeah, you can't change the world in one hit. So you do have to pick on a couple of traits that you want to really improve on that cow. And I guess that's why I've been using the mate programs for the last 20 odd years, 30 years, because that does use that philosophy. It picks on a few of those traits that you want to improve and uses the bull over the cow to correct that. So I think you're right in that. Yes, you just want to be concentrating on two or three major traits to get that advancement that you're looking for.
So do you just want to explain what you mean by mate programs for anyone that might not know?
Okay. So there's quite a few different mate programs out there, and I'm no expert on any of them really, but I guess the ones I've used in the past, somebody's come out and TOP'd the 2-year-olds when they're in milk and put the scores in. And then you pick some bulls that you would like to run over these cows, and then it goes into a computer system, and the computer matches the cow to the bull to the cow, which it considers the best mating option to improve the traits that need to be improved.
So yeah, there's Optimate CMX.
Yes, I think so.
Yes. Optimate is CMX, and then you've got Customate with LIC. I guess they're kind of the two most well known, I would say.
Oh, Worldwide and ST have both got exactly the same, yeah.
Yeah. And then for those that have listened to our AI episode with Matthew Zonderop, the program that he created is a kind of mate program. Matthew offers that system, and his is a lot more advanced, and you have the ability to put in multiple AB companies' bulls into that, and it'll spit it out and give you as many traits as you want. I believe Optimate, we had a discussion about this, I think it allows you 12. And then I'm not sure what Optimate and that allow you to put in, but it includes inbreeding percentage and things like that as well. So it'll make sure that you put the right bull over the right cow.
Yeah, that's the other beauty of the mate programs that I use, is that, yeah, gets all that inbreeding, and also with the new hepatites and all those sort of things that are coming out now, it stops you doubling those up. so that you don't have any problems with those matings as well. It's good so you don't have to do all the research on all that when you're doing a mating. The mating program will tell you that.
So I threw this question in here and Graham doesn't want to answer it, but I'm going to ask him anyway. How many bulls do you normally pick to put over your herd, Graham?
Far too many. Yeah. I guess probably 10 or so, but each year I keep telling myself I'm going to reduce that to about 4 or 5, but then I see another bull. Oh, I like that bull, so I buy some of that semen as well. There's just so many good bulls out there at the moment. It is hard to pick, in my eyes anyway, and a lot of pretty similar bulls too. So it does make it hard just on what you want to use, but it's good that we've got all that choice out there, I think.
And you always pick from multiple companies. Is that right?
Yes, I do. Yep, I have always through the past. I don't align myself to anybody in particular, but I look through all the catalogues and then sort of pick bulls which I believe will suit the sort of cows I want to breed. So a lot of the genetics is reasonably similar through some of the catalogues I look at, but still there's variations there. So it gives you the opportunity to pick the sort of bull that you want anyway. So works
Do you
well.
reckon it's important for people to look at it that way and look at multiple companies and allow themselves to pick bulls from multiple companies?
Yes and no. I think most companies do have the range and the sort of bulls you want nowadays. So I don't think that's necessary. I think you could get the bulls you want just out of a single company. I think they have them in their catalogues, but I guess I've got lots of friends in the breeding game and I like to support a few different people. So you can always find a good bull in everybody's catalogue.
I think one of the main benefits when you look at choosing bulls from multiple companies is that expanding your genetics. One thing that if we just look at the New Zealand companies, gene pool's a lot smaller. So if you limit yourself to one, then it can be hard to pick bulls that have that lower inbreeding percentage. Whereas if you're looking at it from your point of view with the companies that you're looking being overseas companies, then that gene pool's a lot bigger. So if you are just picking from one company, such as Worldwide Sires, then there's such a large gene pool of bulls in there that you're not necessarily worrying as much about that inbreeding percentage.
Yes and no, because I think even you'll find overseas there's quite a concentration on certain bulls. You get a few really good bulls, and all the companies are zoning in on them. And there is lots of different strong cow families around that these bulls can be used on to give you some variation. But there is a bit of close breeding overseas as well. But like you said, there's such a large gene pool out there in the world that does give you more options. Yeah.
And I guess that comes back to, having multiple companies and even a mixture of New Zealand and overseas is really going to allow you a little bit more to expand that gene pool and be aware of your inbreeding percentage. Because the inbreeding percentage in New Zealand is starting to get quite high, especially within the Jerseys. I think it's sitting at almost 10% now. So we do need to be wary of trying to bring that down when they want it to be 2 or below. I believe the Holsteins were sitting at about 6.
Right.
So, yeah, it is something that we need to be aware of when we are looking at picking our bulls and making sure that we are actually trying to expand the gene pool that we have within New Zealand. So, I told Graham to pick 3 bulls. He's very kindly for me picked them from 3 different companies, which I greatly appreciate that. What bull do you want to start with, Graham?
We'll start with Lehigh PP, eh?
Okay, so full name here is Drew Holm Lehigh PP, and he is a CMEX bull. Is that right?
He is, yes.
What is it that drew you to this bull?
Well, I've followed a little bit of A2P2 on some of his daughter stuff, and then Lehigh's out of Lambda, so you've got another bull there that I'm very interested in. Yeah, so he's carving ease and he's polled. So it's quite exciting. You know, that's the thing about the polled gene now. In the past, I felt if you used the polled bulls, you were sort of using inferior bulls. But the way the companies now have bred the polled gene into a lot of the top cow families in the world now, you're not sacrificing anything now pretty much to be able to use polled bulls. So it's not saying that I've jumped in and using all the polled bulls, but I think in this one, you've got a really strong bull that's got really good production and great type. He's 0 for stature and 8 for chest width and 5 for body depth. So you've got what I was talking about before, a bull that
having that capacity and that strength being higher than the stature. Yep.
Very much so, a bull with a lot of what you call grunt and power up front by the look of it. So it really attracted him to me. His rump angle's low. And for his teat placement, he just won for close, for rear end 4, and 0 for teat length. So he's not going to prove anything there, I don't think much, but he's certainly not going to change it or make it even worse. So that was sort of when I looked at him, that those were some of the things that I really liked about the bull. So I thought he was a bull that I could use. Carving ease, I'd be able to mate him to my heifers even, And look at his pedigree. He's got a very strong, an 86 dam, young cow, 3-year-old, and then 2 excellents below that. Some really good, consistent type in his pedigree as well. So
I think he is quite a strong bull all the way through. Like, even when you look at his production, the proof that I'm looking at here is telling me that his fat 71, protein 35. Again, I think people need to be aware that when you're looking at a CMEX catalogue, this is not New Zealand figures. This is either American or Canadian figures. So it might translate a little bit differently to how you'd potentially look at it here in New Zealand. But I think looking at this bull and you're looking at a 71 for fat or things like that, that's still pretty good.
yeah, yeah. He's a well-balanced bull, isn't he, with production and type,
Yeah.
Or and then you've got polled as well, and that's really a A1, A2.
Yeah. So is there anything in that bull that when you're looking at putting him over your cows that you feel like you might need to protect against?
Not really. I mean, his breakdown, there's no real hole in that. If you're bone quality, I guess he's just -2, but I think a lot of the cows we have nowadays are quite dairy, so I don't think he'll have any problem there. So no, I just think he's a good all-round looking bull. He's a good looking bull too, if you look at his photo, but
Yeah, no, he is a good looking bull.
and he's black or blackish. So yeah,
Which
no.
everyone likes more blacker cows. They don't like the white ones.
I think there's some people that like white ones, but I'm not too fussy really whether they're white, black or black and white. But yeah, the old sort of half, 3/4 black one always looks nicer, I think. It doesn't put money in the vat though, does it?
No, that doesn't necessarily affect it as long as it's going to produce. So you mentioned going back to a Delta Lambda, the dam sire being a Delta Lambda. He's like one of the top bulls in the world at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he pretty much, you could say that. He's really sought after bull. He's bred, from what I can understand, very consistently throughout the world and still in a lot of demand. So
Well, those that went to the Canterbury collection sale in April, someone paid, what, $1,900 per straw?
I think so, yep.
They were sexed, but yeah, still a lot of money to throw around.
It is, but if you get a good one, you can pay money back.
There are some beautiful Delta Lambdas out there. Like, even if you look at this proof and you see the dam and the photo, she's a beautiful cow. So I think it's showing you that it is a strong bull, but he's been known to be more of a showy bull. Is that right?
Yeah, though he is very high in production as well.
Oh, okay.
He's a good balance between the two, yeah.
Cool. Well, Lehigh sounds like he's a pretty strong bull and a great choice for your herd. What's our next bull that you want to talk about?
We can talk about sheep stuff.
Sheepster? Cool. So this is a worldwide sires bull?
Yes, he is.
So what about this bull did you like?
Well, I think he's quite a modern bull, if you want to put it that way. He's a bull that's used heavily as a sire of sons. A lot of the world are talking about him. And I guess that's a lot through his health traits. There's just overall production. He's a very high production bull. He's 1,600 for milk and 139 for fat and 86 for protein. And he's got good plus deviations for fat and protein. So sort of a bull that certainly helps production, and it's got good productive life at 5.7, strong on mastitis and good milking speed. So he's sort of the bull that you hear a lot about around the world, of the people that are breeding the next generation of bulls, either sons or will be from daughters of this bull. So yeah, I just think he's something that I think I could get some value out of.
Is he a bull that you've used previously?
No, I have not used him yet. Actually, all the three bulls I've picked tonight, I have not used.
Oh, okay.
I was going to talk about one that I'd use, but then I changed my mind to when I did my pick. So
That's fine. This is the only bull that Graham's chosen tonight that actually has a NZAEL, so a dairy NZ proof. So he actually tracks quite well in his crossover. So as Graham mentioned, according to his American proof, his milk was 1645. So his New Zealand milk is 1500. His fat, Graham said 139, is that right?
yes, that's right.
So his fat BV in New Zealand terms is 58.4, which is pretty darn high. And then his protein, you said it was 86. So it's 47.1 in his New Zealand one. And then that translates to 3.6% protein BV and a 4.5 fat test, which in my opinion is pretty good.
Pretty strong.
For a bull coming through. He's a trooper son. Have you used trooper before?
No, I have not. No, it's pretty new genetics. I guess they're all fairly new. Young sire Trooper was, so I guess it's pretty modern genetics. But yeah, I just think he's a bull that's worth having a go at and seeing what he'll do in my herd.
And if you look at the photo of the dam, I don't think her rear udder ends.
Yeah. No,
She's extremely, extremely high in the rear udder, which is amazing.
I think we could score her a 9, couldn't we, Amelia?
Oh, I think we could easily score her a 9. If you could give a 10, she'd be a 10. I think it definitely reaches the bottom of the vulva. It was quite interesting. Graham and I were looking at this before we started recording and comparing the conformation traits in the dairy NZ one versus the American proof. So I was laughing because I said it was the only one that he picked that had high pins. And Graham said, "You're wrong," which was fine. And that's because on the Worldwide Sires American proof, it is sloped by
0.67. Yeah.
Whereas on the New Zealand proof, it's high by 0.15. So negative 0.15. So I thought that was quite entertaining in how that's changed. And we did think that was entertaining. The thing that always gets me is the stature difference between overseas proofs and New Zealand proofs. And I know that not everything translates the same. And especially stature doesn't seem to translate the same. Because you've got, I think it's a 0.8.
Yep, 0.89, I think he is here.
Yeah.
Yep.
So on the New Zealand proof, he's 2.04. So in American terms, that's not that tall.
2.
A 2 in New Zealand terms, if you convert it to American, try not to confuse myself or you, is actually not that tall. Because I wouldn't say a 0.8 would be overly tall. Would you, Graham?
No, just a good standard size, in my opinion, anyway. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think it's very important for people to kind of understand that it's great that this bull has a New Zealand proof and he's got a BW of over 340. Oh, sorry, it's currently sitting at 335. When the catalogue was printed, it was 348. Sorry, that's why I said that. You know, as I said, I think he's a really nice all-rounder bull, but you do need to be careful with how it converts because sometimes it can convert and not look as good. If you talk to a CMEX rep, because if you look at the CMEX catalogs, some of them are in American proofs and some of them are in Canadian proof. And I've had the conversation with Rachel Cox a couple of times and the same with Isaac Kelson, and they both say the same thing. Normally, if it's an American bull, it's in an American proof, but if the Canadian proof looks better, they're going to put in the Canadian proof. So this might not look great in New Zealand, but it does translate great to how and where that bull is from. So it's important to kind of think and realize that that bull is being tested in a different system to how we're testing it in New Zealand and compared to a different type of cow.
It's all just done on genomics, so isn't it? There's no daughters yet, so
Yeah, so that's correct. There's no daughters, 0 daughters and 0 herds.
yeah.
So is there anything in this bull that you would potentially look at protecting against?
Well, I guess it's that short teeth. He's not bad, but he is slightly short in those rear teeth. So
he's a negative 0.25?
yeah, so very little. And I try not to use bulls with little negative and short teats, but he's only just. So I think the rest of his traits that he has, I think, are very positive. So I'd just watch who I mated him to. The advantage is short. He's certainly, a lot of the times, the short-titted bulls are really close in both front and rear teats, but he's pretty much down the middle there too. So it's a positive in my mind that he doesn't narrow the teats in their placement.
I think it's also really interesting because according to the American one, he's close for teat placement, and in the New Zealand one, he's 1.1. He's wide.
Oh, wide. Oh,
yeah. Again, take it with a grain of salt, especially with a genomic proof. But it is just quite interesting, and I know a lot of new people that are starting to get into using overseas bulls. I would always recommend going if it does have a New Zealand proof, looking at it, just so that you can actually look at it in terms that you're used to seeing if you've only ever used New Zealand bulls in the past. But understanding that it is genomic and that it may not translate the same as what it would if you were looking at it in its American terms.
Just a conversion, isn't it, to New Zealand? Yeah.
Yeah. But I think for a commercial farmer looking at this with a BW of 348 or whatever it is, it's still a good bull. If that's something that you're striving for in your herd, that is still going to bring that BW up and do quite well in your herd. And as you said, Graham, I don't really think there's anything that you're losing out on with the fat and protein like what he's got.
No.
So he should be a good production bull for your herd as well.
Yeah, I believe so, but time will tell, like all bulls, when we use them. And yeah, I think the genomics worldwide now are so strong and so many, the reference population's so large that the genomic predictions are pretty strong. So I'm certainly a believer in them. So I'll trust pretty much what they say there is pretty much what we're going to get within reason.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think those genomics now, especially with those overseas ones, like the turnover of those animals is those bulls especially is so quick now. So the genomics do tend to be quite reliable because there's so many sisters and sons and everything that's coming through. So it helps to improve those genomics.
Yeah.
The more animals that are tested, the better it is. You've got one bull left here. Graham, what's that bull?
I picked out a bull called Blackjack.
Aurora Blackjack P. So he's got a single pole gene.
Yes. Yeah, I picked on him, I guess, more in his pedigree. I'm quite a Parfic fan. I've used quite a bit of Parfic, and I guess he was a bull that I did think about using as one of my 3 bulls because I think he certainly, once again, has a real great balance of production and type. A bull that, doesn't have many flaws or anything that you would not like in his proof. So I've always been a fan of his and he's a Chew P son out of a Perfect, and then Rapid. Rapid's a bull I used myself, and he's a double Rubicon, which I guess sometimes you get a little bit scared of. But once again, in the genomic era, he was genomed, and they found out he was pretty strong. So he's a bull that they marketed, and I'm milking Rapids, and certainly one of my best cows is a Rapid. Tremendous producer and a really good type cow. So I'm a bit of a Rapid fan. So when I saw the 2 of them together in a pedigree and then throwing in a bit of polled as well, only the single P, but And then when I looked at his proof, he, once again, he had that, when you look at the stature, strength and depth, very consistent through there with that. So that was certainly something I really liked about this bull. Yeah, I guess the only downfall a little bit, he is a little high in the pins, so on this proof, I'll just have to watch where I use him there.
Is high pins something that you have as an issue in your herd at all, Graham, or not?
Not majorly, but it's something I don't like.
I don't like high pins either.
I guess in the past we've used bulls that have left high pins, but in the last wee while I've certainly not tried to use any bulls that are high pin, but you can always find some cows that are strong in the rump, a little low, that you could use him on. And once again, I like the length of the rear teat, and the front and rear teat placements aren't too close. So,
Oh, they're actually quite wide.
that's another thing I haven't actually mentioned, but, I like that really plus for height and width of rear udder on bulls, because it's something you see every day, and it's where a lot of the milk and production comes out of. So,
Higher and the wider the rear, the more space there is in the udder.
that's
Right?
right. True. And this bull also has a bit of set to the leg. I guess we've been using quite a few bulls that are fairly straight in the leg over the last wee while. A lot of the good bulls that have come out are.
Comparing it to sheepster's a
Yeah,
bit posty, so a bit
that's right.
straighter in those rear legs rather than got a bit of
Yeah,
sickle
he is.
or set.
And you just have to watch what you used him on there. Whereas this bull, he has quite a wee set to the leg, so it'd be something you could use. Moguls are good in rumps and stuff. A bull that you could use over your mogul blood and that sort of thing, that are a bit straighter in the leg, and hopefully, get some improvement there.
So you mentioned Rapid. Is there any other bulls that you've used in the past that you've said these were perfect for what I wanted them to do over your herd? Like, is there a bull that you just continue to go back to for a few years?
Well, I've used Alco for probably about 4 or 5 years.
While you could get them.
Yeah, yeah. Oldest are about 5, I suppose, now, and I've still got a calf in the autumn. So yeah, I've used them most years, sometimes more than others. So
And your alcoves are doing well in your herd?
yeah, I'm probably milking 30 odd. I haven't counted lately, but yeah, no, they're good, consistent cows. Some I really like, and they're not massive cows, but they've got a lot of strength and power to them, and good producers. So just a good all round cow that fits my system anyway.
I think, personally, I think alcove suits a lot of people's system. I've seen alcoves all over the country, and he is a nice medium size bull, and he definitely is great for improving udder strength on cows, and they can hold the production. I've got
Yep.
a member in the Waikato who does insane production because he's, I don't know if you'd call him like system 7, and he pumps feed into his cows, and that was his issue. So he used a bit of alcove, and I looked at them as 2-year-olds, and I think every single one of them went VG, which he told me afterwards that I made them all VG. And then Dad went back and scored a few of them as 3-year-olds, and they went almost maximum as 3-year-olds. So they are quite nice, tidy cows, and he said the production on them is insane. So they
Yeah.
can definitely make their money.
He's certainly a bull that's done a great job, I think, throughout the country and worldwide. And that's why it was a bit hard to get semen, wasn't it? Because everybody in the world wanted it. So
Yes.
you could have brought some once again at the Canterbury sale. There was still a few straws floating around. So
One lot went for 800, and then the same person brought the rest of them for like 1,200 or something.
yeah, the second lot went for more than the first.
And the same person paid for them. So well done.
Yeah. No, he's a good bull.
I think there's a lot of people out there that have used him quite consistently. I don't think you're the only one there, Graham.
No, there was a lot of people who used quite a lot of them.
Out of the bulls that you kind of select, what percentage of them do you do as sexed?
I guess about half. Yeah, I haven't gone all the sexed way. I guess depending on the quality of sext has got so good. The early days, the conception wasn't quite as strong, but I think nowadays the conception's almost pretty much the same as conventional. So it's not a problem anymore. So I guess I use about half of the semen I use would be sexed, yeah, but I still do use some conventional, I guess, especially on the second and third matings. If you've had a cow return, I tend then to use conventional. I don't know whether that gives it any more chance of getting her in calf or not, but I guess it's a little cheaper too, and you're just watching your pennies a little bit. I guess it depends on the cow too. If it's a cow that I really want to heifer calf in, I may give her a second shot, but generally that's the way I've used sex over the last few years. I tend to use it on my heifers too, like use a sex semen on my young heifers. If I'm breeding right, they should be the strongest genetics that I have in my herd, so I try to use sexed over them to advance that gene pool that I have.
Oh, it makes it come through a little bit faster when you think about if you just use beef over your heifers, then it's a whole nother year that you've got to wait before you get any progeny out of them that's actually going to make advancements in your herd. So if you
Yeah.
think about it in the long term, it does make that progression slightly faster. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's so many good calving ease bulls that nowadays then the animals grow out to be good size animals. In the early days, a lot of the calving ease bulls, the animal was always small, and didn't seem to grow out, but it doesn't matter now. The calving ease bulls they calve a little smaller and then grow to normal size like everything else. So I think there's a lot of vast improvements in your gene pool that you can make if you can breed those younger animals to sex semen and get those new genetics through on your younger stock.
So something else that I really liked when you were looking at this is you always commented on the maternal line. And I think sometimes people forget about the maternal line when they're looking at their bulls.
Well, I guess I was brought up by pretty much one of my mentors, a lady called Judith Geddes. I don't know if you know Judith, but
Yes, I know, Judith.
somebody that I look up to a lot in their breeding, or the Geddes family in general, really. And all those times I went to America with Judith looking at progeny, and Judith always had this great saying, a bull will always only breed as good as its pedigree will let it. Meaning that, no flukes usually happen. It only happens because the maternal and the sire line are there, aren't they, to allow it
Mm.
to breed the way it can. So I've always looked at that. And then, so maternal lines, we know that in our own breeding, that in your own herd, you've got these great maternal lines that you can make them to all sorts of different bulls and they'll just keep tipping out good progeny. Sometimes we give too much credit to the bulls. I think sometimes the maternal lines can be stronger.
I think some people actually forget how good the dam line is.
Yeah,
That, yeah, it was a great bull, but the dam is this outstanding dam that's done, and you've got cows in your herd that you look at them and you're like, okay, I don't like her. Why would I put a sex semen straw in her? Why would I put a Holstein straw in her when I don't like her? And I don't think by putting another Holstein in her, it's going to improve her enough for me to like the offspring. So I'm better not to breed from that cow.
yeah, yeah. She use a beef straw. Yeah,
Yeah, she gets a beef straw or she
yeah,
accidentally doesn't cycle if you listen to Craig.
yeah,
In other words, she went on the truck to the works because you don't want to
yeah,
breed from that. And that's when you get those cows that, the udder gives out or things like that. And you're not necessarily going to improve that enough to be able to get something worthwhile actually continuing the line from.
yeah. Especially if you've got a lot of other good cows that you do need to breed. You can breed replacements from. There's no use breeding a replacement from a cow it's inferior.
I have asked you a lot of questions tonight, Graham,
Yeah.
and I have another one to throw at you, which I didn't prepare you with. As a wrap up, what advice would you give to someone who is new to picking bulls? So maybe like a first time share milker or something like that.
I guess it comes back to when we started, isn't it? Your breeding objective and the sort of animal that you want to breed and milk. Like we've said, we're all different. And it's your herd. And if you like a certain thing, you want to breed that way if you feel it's going to economically be the right way to go. So I think setting goals like we talked about before of what you want in your herd and picking bulls that will match that goal and sticking with it, because, it doesn't happen sometimes with the first cross, but I think if you can consistently use those sort of bulls over your cows, you'll end up with that animal that you really strive to breed, I think. So that would be my advice anyway.
And you said before you have a lot of friends and that are involved in the breeding world. It's important to work with your AB reps. Would you kind of?
Oh, very much so. I guess even more in today's world. 30 years ago when I started a lot of it, we knew every bull, we knew every dam. They were strong. I could have rattled off all sorts of things back in the day, but now with genomics, the fast pace, and my age probably, I can't remember the same things, but the generation is moving on so fast that I think even if you ask a lot of the semen reps, they can't even keep up. The pace of genetics is just going that fast. We do need to rely on their knowledge, the knowledge they're getting from other people from overseas on how things are breeding, and the consistency that they're breeding there, to give us the knowledge to know that that's what we should be looking for. All the good agents around, they've got a real good variety of bulls for you, and they're all there to help you try and breed the sort of animal that you want for your herd.
I think that's the important thing. They're there to help you breed the cow that you want.
Yeah.
So it's not letting them convince you to do something different, which is also why it's important to know what you want, have those objectives to know what you want. But they can also give you advice on what has worked in New Zealand, because they're going to multiple farms in your area because they're all regional based. So they've been to Joe Blogg's farm down the road, who used that bull last year, and he's got some great little calves, or he used it 2 years ago and he's now milking some 2-year-olds, and they're doing well in the system that's similar to your system.
Yeah.
So they're going to have a better idea of what works than you just kind of going out there on your own, especially in those first couple of years. Once you get an idea of what your calves are looking like when they hit the ground and whether or not you like them.
Yeah.
And that's where that trial and everything comes in a little bit. You might go ahead and pick some bulls the first couple of years and you think that that's what you want, and then they come out and they hit the ground, and then all of a sudden they're really leggy and they've got no body, and now what do I do? And so you might think next year, okay, well, I need to bring down the stature in the bulls that I'm picking, or I need to understand a little bit more. And again, those reps are the ones that understand the proofs better than anybody.
That's right.
So they can convert them into what you're looking at in New Zealand terms.
Yeah, how they relate to the here in New Zealand too, isn't it? To give you that animal that you're looking for. Yeah.
So I think I've taken up enough of your time this evening, Graham. But thank you again for joining me today to talk about everything to do with breeding, pretty much. Your breeding objectives, how to pick the right bulls, learning about reading bull proofs. I think if anyone ever needs any advice, don't hesitate to ask people that are in like Graham's position in your region, whether they be a board director or just someone that you look up to that's breeding something similar to what you want to do, and ask them for advice. Because I can tell you right now, they will talk your ear off for about 2 hours about what they've liked about a certain bull. When I said to Graham this was going to take about 45 to 50 minutes, he was like, how are we going to make up that time? And now we've been talking for like an hour. So it goes past very quickly when you start talking to these people. They love breeding. They love what they do. So get their advice because they know better than anyone else. As I said, there's hundreds of bulls out there amongst the multiple AB companies that work throughout New Zealand. So hopefully Graham and I have been able to help people make some more informed decisions for choosing the right bulls for this coming season for their herd. Have you got any final words for us, Graham?
I guess we're all still learning, aren't we? It's a learning game. None of us know it all. So I guess we've just had a few years of doing it. So I guess we've seen a few of our results come through. So we do understand a little bit more of what needs to be done. But no, it's a great thing to be part of, breeding cows. you can think you can put this cow with this bull, think you're going to make the perfect one, but it doesn't always work. But 9 times out of 10, though, you're certainly going to get an improvement, and that's all you can ask for.
As you said, it's all a learning curve, and just take it year by year. Unfortunately, you can't see the future, so we've got to take it year by year.
Yeah.
So thanks again, Graham. I think this has been a really awesome chat, and it was great to kind of see what you're looking for and that you're looking at choosing for this coming season. So as always, if you have any questions about today's topic or any other topics that you would like us to talk about, you can get in contact with us through our website, Facebook, or Instagram. And as always, thanks for listening. I will be back next month with a new guest and a new topic. Until then, happy farming. Bye.